We are back for session 2 of the Chronicler. I'm Christopher Gray. This is a Highcaster solo roleplay, actual play. So the rules are designed so that you can play the full game of Highcaster, but with you yourself as the player and the Chronicler. So this is something I'm doing for fun, but also I figured I would stream it while I'm doing it, and hopefully you'll enjoy it too. We are in session 2. We actually met Julius Lorato a few times by now. If you have followed the Gallant Knight actual play of Highcaster, you will know him. When you get the game, which is coming out in the next month or so, you'll get to read his excerpts throughout the book. He is well, let's say renowned chronicler and historian from the Hydoni culture. He has spent his life writing about history, experiencing some history firsthand. And he has found himself in more than one situation that a historian should not be in. And we are going to continue to follow his misadventures. He was with the heroes of the Whitlands as they were on a quest to bring their goddess, the Othinser, back to the night sky. Because as you see, over 500 years ago, all of the stars fell from the sky. And the stars were the gods and goddesses themselves. And they are trying to get them to ascend. When we last left our heroes, they were on that quest. There was already one star in the sky, which was what prompted the quest, because if one star can be risen to the night sky, then so can the Othinser. It so happened that our hero, the Chronicler, Julius Lorato, was in the citadel, taking refuge, the citadel of the Bregden, which is the city that the heroes found themselves in their wish. He was there because he was exiled from his homeland, Hydoni, in Haydn, the city of Haydn, where the Hydoni people live. And he was exiled, and so he was taking refuge in this citadel, and then the Whitlander heroes pulled him out, and he went with them into a Agard shard, which was this volcanic glass meteor that was in the earth. And from there, he was transported, as if by magic. Where was he sent? That's where our story began. He was sent to Haydn in the court of the Empress, the place that he was exiled. He was sent back, but he was sent back by who? Or was it an accident? Or was it because he was most familiar with the place and the way that the magic worked brought you back to familiarity? Or was he brought there by the people who tried to kill him when he arrived? He appeared in a closet, basically. And some assassins tried to kill him. In fact, they laid a blade into him. They appear to be zealots of some sort, in sort of a ritualistic garb, using ritualistic weapons. And when he came out of the place where he was attacked, he ended up in the court of the Empress Mystera, the dragon, who exiled him. The entire court turned to look, and there he was. His attackers fleeing into the courthouse, into the court. Oh, we're getting a helicopter nearby. This is very helpful to our mood. The court all turned to look at him, and what happened next? That's where we ended. So what happened to his attackers? What does Mystera do? What does her court do? They're in the middle of an audience hall, in the middle of a feast, and so this is sort of the worst possible place that Julius Lorato could make a dramatic entrance, and he makes a dramatic entrance because he comes blasting out of this closed and locked door, and he stumbles out onto the floor, bleeding, and that's where we're going to start. So this is a solo play. I have over here on the side my dice tray, which is going to be my handy. Well, in the last game, it was my handy opponent. We'll see how it goes in this game. But I want to start off, first of all, by reviewing the character sheet, which I remember to pull up this time. The This is called a keeper, by the way, which is the backers of the Kickstarter will get this, so you can have an online version of the character sheet, which has some formulas and things in it. It's pretty cool. So you can see where he's at. The wax means that I lost a roll or twice. I probably should have waxed more than once, but my notes only said once. And that means then if I roll poorly enough times, I'll actually be able to increase my die on these stats. But also, he had taken some harm. So we see over here that there is some harm taken, and if he takes too much harm, then he won't be able to use this stat. So he's kind of in a situation right now. Also spent a lot of dice, and he hasn't had a chance to recover. No, to the contrary, he is spilling blood onto the audience hall of Miss Dara in Haydn. So I think there are a couple of things we need to figure out. First of all, we need to find out where the assassins went. That's the first thing. There's a conflict that threat I want to bring to the table, which is interesting. I did not see. I always got to forget something. This time I forgot the index card, so we'll have to play theater of the mind. But there's a threat that there's an assassin on the run because they had locked Julius inside this room and then bolted. So his attacker is missing. So there's going to be a lot to ask, but what happened to that? So there's that, and then there's Mystera, who's another threat. Obviously seeing that the person that she exiled is right there in front of her, but he's bleeding. So let's look at a couple of things. First of all, I need to know generally what the reaction of the room is, but also of Mystera, who is probably going to give us the reaction of the room just because she is the prominent empress. So we're going to start the game by rolling, and on this table, this is the open question table, which is what is the reception of Julius bleeding on the floor. And if you can imagine, door opens, tumbles forward, he looks up, and he sees everybody look up at him, and he says, "Well, seems we have a problem." What happens? Let's do, we're going to do a roll here, and we're just going to roll on this table. The dice, this is owlbear.rodeo, my favorite app for rolling dice. We got a 92. What does that mean? So we go over to our table here, and kind of at the end of the table. All right, so this is a fortification. Now, with anything on the open questions, it's up to my interpretation. I'm basically using these as visual prompts to help me continue to tell the story. So it's really up to me. But I do want to kind of use the prompts as honestly as I can, because I, as a player, as Chris, I have not prepped anything. I don't know anything that's going on. So I'm going to rely on these rolls to tell me. So there's fortification, all right? I think I might want to get a little bit more texture than that. And I'm going to go ahead and roll twice on this table to see if I can get some more clarity. So that is, I rolled a 1. All right, so 1 it is. I'm gonna have to go all the way back to the beginning of the table. Switch to the PDF here. All the way to the top. All right, so that is okay. All right, so I think at this point the Empress is convinced that she is under attack. So she is at the end of the hall, and there's sort of a dais raised up over the hall while there's a vast amount of people eating and feasting. She is a large dragon, but is not as ancient as some other dragons in Highcaster. So she fills a room, but she's not like bigger than the room, which we've met dragons in our games that are bigger than castles. She's probably, a bit bigger than a T-Rex, and so she's sizable, filling up the end of the hall. She has white iridescent scales that in the right light look milky, almost like she's cascaded with moonlight. And she has these large dragon wings, but that are perched like mountains behind her shoulders. And looks down at Julius and then looks at everybody else who is now jumping to their feet. And she says very quietly, but she's a dragon, so the voice resonates all the way through the hall. Sees him. And boom, all of these people come rushing towards Julius, who's bleeding on the ground. And he looks up, and he sees all of them coming at him. There are, they're in the middle of a feast, so they're dropping their turkey legs, and they're just grabbing their swords, and they're arming themselves. They're putting on the latching armor that they had unbuckled to handle the meat that they were consuming, and they're coming. And so there must be 2-3 dozen soldiers or warriors that were at this feast that are now arming and coming up to him. And while they are doing that, there's a bunch of them that are moving back up towards Mystera, and they are guarding her. So they sort of create this phalanx, and they're bringing up their shields, and they're blocking up her entire area so that she's behind the shields. Not that she needs the protection, but they are fortifying. Spears are they're Hydoni. Hydoni are warriors. They're the Romans of Highcaster. They have plumes coming out of their helmets, and they have large tower shields, and they have spears. You're not getting past this wall. This is a historian we're talking about. It's not like a huge threat, but that's how Mystera reacts. She says, sees him. What does he do? Well, what can he do? He can bleed and die there, but that wouldn't be very interesting. So Julius is going to do what he always does, which he does best, and that is to talk himself out of this situation. So he is... I'm going to look at the character sheet here. He has these disciplines which he can recount a legend or poem or historical fact that will assist him. Or he can use words to change her mind. You can see that I've already spent everything. There's also a performance, but he's going to try to... I think he's going to wax poetic. I'm going to use the Cantor discipline. His motivation here is to give himself a legal argument for not being seized. So he's not trying to appeal to her emotion. He's trying to appeal to her laws. And so in that case, I think this is going to be a prestige roll, which for Julius is a D8. And I'm confronting, sees him. The discipline I'm going to use is Cantor. I've already spent my D8 last time, so I'm going to spend a D6. So I've got a D8 and a D6 in the pool. Hydoni talent. I'm a native of Waste March. That won't help me. I have hirelings, but that doesn't help me in this situation. I'm not really going to be able to do that on Scoppler talent. I'll give a talent to another character, so I'm not inspiring anybody. All right, so I'm basically on my own here. Now, I do have this feat learned when I am educated. So once per session, I can know something about the world that will help my situation, and I can choose to introduce it as a truth if it is not existing, or ask the Chronicler to reveal truth. So I think that it would help for him to know the law, and Yeah, this is simple. I'm going to introduce a truth using my feet. And the truth is that there is a law that protects him from being seized or captured or harmed during a feast. It's a hospitality law. So he can appeal to that. And it's a very noisy night tonight. I have airplanes and helicopters. This is amazing. I feel like I'm in a war zone. Anyway, so I'm going to go ahead and add a D6 talent die to this pool because of that. So I've got a D8 for that, and I got a D6 for my discipline, and I'm going to get a D6 for my feet. Okay, so let's go back to the tray and see what happens. Oh, I lost my dice tray. There it is. Okay. So I've got my discipline, or I mean my stat, which is a 1. Great. I have my discipline, which is a 2. Uh-oh. My feet, 5. There we go. Glad I did that. Boom. Okay. It's an 18. So, oops, I didn't mean to reroll. I was trying to cancel. Okay, so Julius gathers himself. He's bleeding. Stabs, holds up his gut a bit, and stands up and says, "Ah, the great, revered Empress of Hydoni, I grovel in blood before you, as I was brought here at your time of feasting and celebration against my will through the magic of zealots. And as I know through the history and the texts, as a esteemed chronicler of the court in my many years of service to Haydn, that a man who enters a feast is protected by the hospitality of Hydoni, especially a man that was stabbed and needs help from his empress. So we know that he's going to succeed with a caveat, but I'd like to know her reaction to this. And this will help me decide as a chronicler her next step. So we're going to go here to the dice tray. Where's my dice tray? There it is. Okay. I'm going to roll the percentile. 58. The question I'm asking is, what is her reaction to this? And we'll find out. What did I say? Was it 58? 58. I could better at navigating this. All right. I can see her reaction. Clear as day. So she holds up her dragon paw, claws out, and in a gesture of peace. The advancing soldiers stop, look at her, wait for her reaction. Dragons don't have eyebrows, but they have, or, fur on their eyebrows, but they have eyebrows. One of them raises. Julius Lorado, I spare you on a technicality. And will do what it takes to stop your bleeding, and then you will leave this kingdom and empire immediately. If you are not out of my boundaries, By sunrise, when the feast ends, I will track you down, like the weasel that you are, and I will end you. I suggest you staunch this problem and leave post haste. Because I do not want to chase you. I just want you out. So there's the cold reception. Julia says, okay, staunch. Depleting. Ah. But, please, Empress, aren't you a little bit curious? Who stabbed me? Who brought me here and who stabbed me? I'm just a little, tiny bit curious. Whoa, what am I doing? I resolved that threat. Mysterio is no longer a threat. But I'm going after it again because, well, Julius can't leave well enough alone. He wants to know. And he wants her to want to know as well. So I'm actually going after the same threat that I've already resolved. It's already been subdued. So that means I need to pay a favor to do that. I have one favor for showing up today, so I'll spend it. That means I can go after the threat again. And what I'm really trying to do is change that icy reaction to something more positive. I want to be able to stay here and recover and maybe find some information. I mean, I'm not interested necessarily in staying and hiding, but I do want to know what's going on and find out who attacked me, if it was related to how I got here. And I want some time to recover. I just got gutted, for God's sake. So I'm really trying to soften the ice. I'm trying to override that caveat of having to leave as soon as I, or I'll be killed. I have until the end of the night to get out of Haydn. And I mean, it's not a huge empire, but it's not like, compared it to Rome, it's not like that, because the fall of the stars, stronger, everything got destroyed. And so it's like really just a bunch of hamlets and villages and stuff. But still, I mean, the idea of a bleeding chronicler trying to get out of the reach of the Empress in a night is ridiculous. So I'm trying to go after the same threat to override the caveat and see if I can soften it a bit. So let's see how that goes, because it could backfire on me. Let's hope it doesn't. I'm going to try to add as much to the pool as I can. We're still on prestige. It goes down to motivation. The motivation isn't really to override her as much as it is to protect myself and to give me more time. So I'm going to call this virtue, which is D6. Actually, it'd be better if it was prestige, but it's not really, because he's not trying to outmatch her. He's not even trying to be witty. He's just wants to protect himself. So this is virtue, which is D6. I'm going to spend, I use some good words here, so I'm going to spend a D6 on Oriton. And I've got nothing else that I can use really. So that's it. That's my GM. So let's see what happens here. So I've got a 6 and a 6, and I've already spent my favor, so I can't bolster the pool anymore. All right, so let's roll it. Let's see. That's my stat. That is my, that's my discipline. That's good enough. That's really all I need. Right? All right, so that's 14. So let's roll to see the reaction. 98. We're going to go to 98. Okay. That is a tornado. Shouldn't bargain with dragons. Okay. Now, it's a success, but with another caveat. What is the caveat? It's a tornado. I think she loses her temper. She expands her wings to full width, which takes up the entire audience hall. She stands up, rising from the dais. And she flies over to him. It takes one wing stroke. Boo. The air from the wind created by her giant wings knocks almost everybody down. Food goes flying, ale goes flying, scopplers playing music go flying. In one gesture, she has crossed the entire hall, right up to Julius. She looks down at him very closely. And if you can imagine Julius being me, this is, where is my, there we go. This is her snout coming in at him, eclipsing his view. I don't like you, Julius Lorado. It matters not to me that you are bleeding to death. It matters that you're bleeding to death on my floor. It matters that you were brought here. So, you will find out who is behind this. You will report to my vizier so that my vizier can make the proper arrangements. You will not step foot in this hall, or indeed anywhere near this citadel, until the truth is discovered. And the moment it is, you must leave. Do you understand? Very gracious of you. Does your vizier know how to staunch bleeding? So, let's meet the vizier, shall we? I think we're going to the text for this. This is actually a different section, not in the solo play, but you can use it for solo play. But I have a whole section on like rolling random stuff. Okay, so oh, did I pass it already? There we go. Okay, so here we are, a random table to determine an NPC. So we need to roll a d10 basically 3 times, and then it'll come up with something random. Then we'll find out what we're dealing with. So here we go. First 10-sided die is a 4, and then a 9, and then a 6. Cool. So the 4 means that we have a strong person. The 9 means that this is a mortal, like Julius. And wait, what was the other one? I'm so bad about remembering this stuff. A 6. So the 6 means that this person is rude. Well, okay, well, I mean, we didn't need a table to tell us that. So this is and this is Hydoni, so let's just give this person a name. So we're going to roll So you're gonna roll gender to see what we come up with on that randomly. Okay, so gender is neutral. And then, I should show you the dice. And we need to roll a d8 on surnames and the first name. 3 and 1. Right. So this person is named Burr. That's the last name. No, that's the first name, Burr. And the last name is Shroud. Okay. The Vizier is Burr Shroud. Immortal, who is rude. And what was the other one? Strong. Okay. Any other tables we want to use? That it? That's good. Okay. Let's go back to the juicy stuff. Okay, so Vizier Burr steps in from the crowd. I imagine that he is 6'2". Maybe let's make him 6'4". Broad-shouldered. Warrior, life warrior, but he, is too old to be a warrior now, so he's the warrior's boss's boss. So he has like engraved, etched face, ragged, scarred. His long gray salt and pepper hair goes past his shoulders, but that's braided back. He wears his old armor still, which is scarred and burned. But now he has the drapes of the Empress, so has a violet cape, and he comes walking with purpose through the crowd. They all kind of part ways for him, and he walks up to her. It's gender neutral, so we'll call them, and they have a severe expression on their face. They look down at Julius. The Empress, now that the situation has been taken care of, saunters back to her place, wraps her claw up in the air, signaling that everybody should get back to the feast as if nothing happened, even though the feast is on the floor and blown apart. But they do. Yeah, music starts. People start getting back and gathering their things. And she's just watching Julius from afar, but allowing her vizier to sort of take over. So my question here is, we know the vizier is rude, but what is he going to do? Because now I'm in a position where I need to prompt the story forward without Julius, who's sort of at their mercy. So let's do the percentile die. Find out. Yeah, a 75. Okay. On the book, that means okay, so it's a compass, sort of like a navigation compass. Okay. So the Vizier Burr. Has he, okay, so he just, okay, I know what he's going to do. He walks over to a nearby table and grabs a handful of some, looks like flour or something that's on the table is being served in the feast. And then he just kind of makes a mulch out of it with some nearby water. And he's kind of puts in salt and some other things. And so he basically makes this handmade salve. And he knows about this. I'm sorry, I keep on using the wrong pronouns. They know about this because they were a sailor and they had to come up with ways to staunch bleeding on the deck. So this is basically a home remedy for sailors. And they put this mulch together and then just press it into his wound, which hurts. And he goes, oh, but it stops the bleeding. I will take you to the doctor simply by telling you where they are. You will report to me in the morning, and we will figure out what's going on. Good day. Good night. So he is not bleeding anymore, but kind of is left for on his own to go and take care of it by what the vizier calls a doctor. So Burr tells him where to go and just leaves. Burr's not going to stoop down as low as to showing Julius how to get there. So Julius has to make his way. But when Julius hears, does he know this person that is the doctor? So we're going to roll on a yes, no. So the yes, no, which we haven't done a lot of these, we're going to roll a d20. I got a 6. So the answer is no, because. Now I'm going to roll in the open to see because why. And I got a 29. Okay. So Julius doesn't know this particular healer because they're a wicker. And Julius typically didn't, although one of the Whitlander heroes that he was with was a wicker. But Julius doesn't typically associate with outliers of society like that. He always thought of himself as pretty cosmopolitan. So the fact that Vizier Burr is sending him to a wicker is sort of Burr's way of punching down. So yeah, I'll send you a doctor. You have to go to a wicker. Now, wickers in Haydn, let's go ahead and look at the text, as there is cultural significance to the different paths. Need to get a version with hyperlinks so we don't have to scroll through. So, where are we? That is a Wildcan. Here's Wicker. So, culture. Wicker. Hydoni. While respected by the empire, they are left alone as the primary source of health and protection for the peasants and workers. Wicker are called folk rights, worker of the people. So, that tracks. He always considered himself the upper crust, and now he has to go into the slums with the peasants to get their doctor to stop, this mortal wound from infecting, after having been stuffed with some sort of sailor remedy. So I'm going to give Julius some harm. This is really taking a toll on his prestige. This is hurting his pride. And you can win, as a chronicler, you can just cause harm. You don't have to wait for dice to roll bad. This is just a situation that's not good. You can also have harm for caveats, and I think there have been enough caveats to warrant poor Julius taking a hit to his pride. Because if he has too much harm to his prestige, he becomes ashamed, and he can't use his prestige die. So this stinks for him. So we'll add harm to prestige. He's already got 1 harm, so he needs to recover, or he's going to be just completely humiliated. So Julius leaves the citadel and he goes into the night sky of Haydn. Haydn is the culture. Haydn's the city. And it's a bustling metropolis. Huge for Highcaster. It's a huge city. And, the feast is going on in the citadel, which means the feast is going on all over the city. and there's just drunken debauchery on every corner. So he looks around to see if he can find any trace of the. He's looking around to see if he can find any trace of his attackers, which is another threat that's still in play. So we're going to go ahead and just do that. And he's looking around, but that's really all I can do. I'm going to use courage for this because it's scout is the move, and that means I only get a D4. Also, I can't really use any of my disciplines. I can probably use my talent because I naturally know my way around the region. So I'm going to know, I'm going to know, I was a courtsmith, so I'm going to know kind of the ins and outs, especially around the Citadel. So I'll be able to use that. So I get a talent die for that. So that's a 6 and a 4. Let's see. Okay, so that's 4, and then, uh-oh. It's not good. All right, so I'm going to, that was my courage. So now I need to figure out what happens to him. I need to create a threat. I think the attackers are laying in wait. They're waiting for him to get kicked out so they can finish the job. So that's what I think, but let me roll and find out, if there's going to be any more, what happens. I can ask the open question, what happens. I go back to the dice. $35. So we have get back to the table. Oh boy, we went far. Sorry about this. I'm gonna get a version with hyperlinks. So 34. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I got the dragon breath again. So I think I think the attackers are dressed as royal guards, or imperial guards rather. So they have the violet capes, and they are up on the ramparts waiting for him to come out. And when they do, they unleash their crossbows. And before Julius goes unconscious, he looks down at the bolts in him. I'm not a bad guy. And he falls unconscious. That's where we're going to leave him. Things are not looking good for Mr. Lorado. What's going to happen next? We will find out if he doesn't get killed so early in my game. That is, I think, where we're going to sign off. Keep up with the Twitch feed. I'll stream there, and I'm going to post elsewhere. So I don't have a regular schedule on this. I'm just kind of doing it on, when I feel like doing it. So if it gets a little more traction, maybe I'll put a schedule on it. But you can expect it at least once a week. And, going forward, I'll try to announce it ahead of time. But thank you for watching for now, and we will see you next time.